Hello and welcome to the final video of our three-part series. This video will cover how it works. How did we get from the philosophy in video 1 to the results in video 2? And what do students actually do day to day? But first, let me frame the big picture. Everything we do at Kairos is meant for students to practice real life in 21st century America. That means that students need to have real agency. We think about this in 3 levels. They need to have the knowledge and skills to set their own goals and work to achieve them, individual agency. They need to know how to build relationships and collaborate within a group to accomplish a common goal, group agency. And they need to understand how to change the structures and systems in which they live, community agency. At the beginning, adults model how to make wise choices in these 3 domains. But gradually, students take more ownership of the process. By the time they're in 10th or 11th grade, students should be functioning basically like college kids. That means flexible schedules that they manage according to goals that they articulate. They might choose to meet with their math study group in the morning, attend newspaper club over lunch, and break for ping pong with a friend after their English discussion section. Of course, they'll have classes that they need to attend, like in college, but they'll have some agency over where and when they take place. We know that most students aren't immediately ready for this level of choice. It takes practice. So unlike the transition to college or the real world, when students traditionally confront these kinds of choices, we don't just drop them straight into the deep end. Each Kairos kid follows their own winding path towards this full choice, and each student receives personalized support from a caring staff member to help them along the way. With this framing in mind, let's start at the beginning. This is a picture of an actual 6th grader's weekly schedule in Google Calendar. There are lots of different activities the students involved in each day, but they all really fall into one of 4 core categories: personalized learning, project-based learning, individualized coaching, and community building or civic leadership. We're going to take some time to walk through the purpose and the function of each one. Here we see self-direction or personalized learning. Personalized learning is both a broader philosophy and a type of class at Kairos. The idea is to recognize that every child learns differently, that each will be in a different place with the material, work at a different pace, and access content best in different ways. As a class type, personalized learning covers content knowledge, like scientific laws, math equations, grammar, facts, and figures. This is the right and wrong answer kind of stuff that functions as the raw material for creative projects. In a traditional school, this kind of information is covered in a class lecture, where 30 students receive the same information at the same time and the same pace. We flip this process, providing instruction on demand to each student through the nation's best personalized learning curriculum and platform, Summit Learning. On the platform, you can see the entire year's curriculum for each subject. Personalized learning material is organized in playlists called focus areas or units. You'll also notice that the student can both accelerate to work on new content and dig deeper by engaging with additional focus areas that are aligned to the above topics. Let's say we're working on a focus area called scale drawings. We can click into the unit and see the learning objectives and aligned resources for each objective. Students work through these resources, videos, interactive lecture notes, and practice problems at their own pace, pausing, rewinding, speeding up, slowing down, or asking for help as they see fit. When the student feels they've mastered the material, they advocate for themselves by requesting to take the content assessment, a 10-question quiz. Students have to earn at least an 8 out of 10 to move on. And if they get below an 8 out of 10, that's not a problem. Learning how to fail, bounce back, and grow from mistakes is core to this process. Small failures create a feedback loop that students use to calibrate what it means to actually study for mastery, to really know something. Students can review the material they didn't understand and retake a similar quiz with no penalty to their grade. Instead of shuffling students along before they're ready, we make time the variable and mastery the constant. This kind of self-directed learning is new for most students, so we scaffold the process to make sure each has the support that they need to be successful. Personalized learning begins in a classroom. Each of the 15 to 20 students is working on the material that's right for them based on personalized goals they set with their coach. We'll get into that more later. In these classrooms, teachers serve as a resource for students, helping them troubleshoot difficulties as students engage with the material directly. But as students learn how to manage their own time and direct their own learning, they don't need to work right next to a teacher. Personalized learning blocks are the first part of the schedule to become flexible. Students can earn the choice to work outside of the classroom in our flexible learning spaces: the library, the co-working space, the lounge, a conference room. Again, more on this later. Personalized learning is about 30% of a student's time and about 30% of their grade. But all the content knowledge in the world is useless unless we do something with it. In every subject, in every unit, students spend the bulk of their time, 70%, showing what they've learned by applying it to a creative, collaborative, real-world project or problem. Project-based classes also have 15 to 20 students, but they center around teacher-facilitated, cognitively guided work, not lecture. There, students discuss, collaborate, and get subjective feedback from the teacher on drafts of their project. All personalized learning focus areas ladder up to project-based work, and our scale drawings example from earlier is no exception. Having just mastered the scale drawings focus area, our students will then apply those skills in their project-based work. In this case, they'll work in a team of 3 other students to design their dream home. They'll create both a 2-dimensional floor plan and a 3-dimensional scale model of the home, then present their ideas to the broader community. This kind of project-based practice is really about 3 key ideas: motivation, memory, and cognitive lift. First, motivation. It's just more fun to build a house than take a test. And by making the product public, students are motivated to do their best, not by threat of a grade, but because they want to be proud of what they produce and share. With memory, there are really 2 parts. First, projects provide a venue for a whole lot of authentic practice with the underlying skills. In this case, each time a student decides to place a line on their house design, they're identifying corresponding sides, they're using scale factors, and they're calculating the equivalent ratio. If I want a 20-foot wall, how many centimeters should that be in my drawing? This means students get a lot of at-bats with those skills. But they're not just drilling for no purpose. They're applying the knowledge to a challenge they need to overcome: real learning. The second part of this memory component has to do with how we store and retain memories. The latest neuroscience research tells us that humans don't retain one-off facts very well. That's why when we cram for a test, it's in one ear, out the other. We've forgotten most of that information by the end of the week. Instead, we retain stories, narratives, things that have emotional resonance or weight, things that fit into an existing logical framework or bigger picture. Projects create those memorable moments and that context for students. Maybe it's the heated discussion they had with their group about where to put the hot tub. Maybe it's the butterflies they feel before presenting to their class. These moments stick in memory. And because they're associated with objective skills, scale factors, corresponding sides, ratios, students will retain that information for much longer and with more accuracy. And finally, projects are about engaging students in deeper learning. To pull this project off successfully, students have to negotiate with their group, model a complex system from the real world in a simple drawing, and present oral and multimedia information in a convincing way. Each of these is what we call a cognitive skill, higher order thinking. Codified by the Stanford School of Education, there are actually 35 of these cognitive skills across 6 domains. While the projects are bound to a specific discipline, the skills themselves are interdisciplinary. We can, for example, present our findings or cite effective evidence in history, as well as in English, math, and science. Each year, the curriculum requires every student to practice each skill at least twice, with the higher score counting toward their grade. But of course, what it looks like to craft a persuasive argument is very different in the 6th grade than it is in the 9th. So we grade those skills according to a rubric that grows with the student over time. This allows us to build a more complete picture of a student's progress than we can capture by standardized tests or objective learning alone. By now, you can see how the academic model fits together. Students work at their own pace through objective skills in personalized learning, and then they exercise higher order thinking by applying those skills to creative, collaborative projects. But this begs a few questions. If your students working at their own pace, who's making sure that they're adequately challenged? Given how different this is, how do you know how your child's doing? And who's going to help them acclimate and support them as a whole person, not just an academic learner? Enter the coach. Every student at Kairos is assigned a one-on-one coach or mentor. The coach only works with 5 to 10 other students and will stay with each of them all through middle school. Coaches meet with their students 2 to 3 times a week. During the first meeting, they set personalized goals together. Where do we want to be in each subject by the end of the week? What would success look like? In their second and third meetings, they ask students to reflect on their week, they stamp the good habits and helpful strategies, and address challenges by teaching explicit executive functioning skills. These are things like how to structure outline notes, how to prioritize their work, how to break a big goal down into more manageable chunks. Coaches help students learn how to learn on their own, so they'll be ready to thrive in college and career. In addition to pacing students through their academic work, the what, coaches also decide if a student is ready to take on additional choice over where, when, and how they work. Students again advocate for themselves by submitting an application for increasing levels of choice. The coach reads the application, interviews the student, and makes a decision. As long as the student is successful at that level of choice, they can continue there and apply for more. If they start to stumble academically or otherwise, the coach will pull the choice back, identify the issue, and teach a strategy to overcome it before reinstating the choice. Finally, coaches are a rock for students. They build strong relationships that form the basis of secure attachment in school. We know and we've seen that when students feel supported in this way, they do their best work. Coaches also build strong relationships with parents. Together, they co-construct a vision of success during 6 to 7 home visits each year, and then monitor progress towards that vision through weekly update texts. Parents and students know that if they need anything, their coach has their back. As the primary point of contact, the coach advocates for the student and family within the school community. They also connect families to critical resources both within the school and without. But the strength of a school, of a community, is so much more than just the sum of individual student successes and growth. Building a strong community requires intention. At Kairos, we have a number of structures that create space for students to build authentic relationships, to know and be known at a deeper level than their contributions in science and math, English, or history. This starts, of course, with the student's coach, but it extends far beyond. Each coach is paired with another. Together, their students form a house, like Harry Potter. Houses are the organizational unit of culture activities within the building. Every morning, students meet for a house huddle. In the middle of the week, they have a structured period with their house to discuss current events, problem-solve issues, and engage with each other. At the end of the week, houses hold circle, a ritualized and intentional space where we center a student's vulnerability to build empathy and belonging. There, students update their house about major life events, ask for support, and share appreciations with one another. For more on circles, check out this video by the school who inspired our work. This practice promotes kindness through understanding. But of course, kids are kids, so when feelings do get hurt, our restorative justice team facilitates mature conversations to resolve the issue and heal the relationship, what we call relationship work. They ask students to clarify what happened from their perspective, name intentions and feelings, reflect what the other person said, apologize for any harm caused, and make specific commitments to avoid repeating the mistake. Staff are experts on these systems because we use them to build our own team up. We hold faculty circles every other week and resolve harm to relationships through relationship work. If we ask students to do something, it's because we believe it's important enough to do ourselves. Like everything at Kairos, we don't just want to build a sense of community for kids while they're in school. We want to empower them with the skills they'll need to build strong communities themselves after graduation. To do that, we have to let students practice civic leadership, shaping the structures and systems in which they live. That means that students shouldn't be shut out of the decision-making process. Like citizens in a democracy, they should have multiple avenues to make their opinions heard and shape their community. The clearest example of this is our incredibly active student government, Kairos Council. This past year, they've changed the dress code twice by petitioning, deliberating on a new policy, soliciting parent feedback, inviting faculty to a meeting, and presenting the policy for a vote. They've organized student assemblies, announcing clubs and celebrating peer successes. They've launched student jobs to manage community spaces. They planned and executed 3 all-school events, and they created a student-faculty restorative justice committee to adjudicate disciplinary issues. But elected office isn't the only way to make change. In addition to regularly scheduled extracurriculars like art class and recess, students design and build their own extracurricular activities through clubs. In that way, students not only have the flexibility to pursue their own passions, but they can help inspire similar interests in their peers. Clubs meet twice a week during the school day so that every student can participate. We have over 40 clubs, including Mandarin Chinese, coding, robotics, cooking club, running club, chess club, volleyball, step team, drama, and the list goes on. And all of these began with a student petition and a student idea. Finally, we encourage students to get involved in the community outside of Kairos. We have a number of clubs that engage directly with the community through gardens, neighborhood clean sweeps, and other events. All of these core elements, personalized learning, project-based learning, one-on-one coaching, and community building or civic leadership, occur within a context of continuous improvement. We aren't beholden to conventional wisdom or to what other schools are doing. We're only beholden to our students and families. We ask for their input constantly, and we use that input to improve our school in ways large and small. Like all other ideas at Kairos, there's a structure to support this concept, our year-round calendar. We operate in 6 cycles of 5 to 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, with a longer summer break in July. Almost all of these breaks line up with traditional school breaks: Thanksgiving, winter break, spring break, traditional summer break. And students don't lose any days off school. We just rearrange them into a schedule that better optimizes their time. Students can work for 6 weeks, then relax for 2. That way, they don't lose focus over a traditional 20-week semester. And students themselves can focus on bite-sized ways to improve each cycle. During each 2-week break, faculty have 1 week together called in-service. During that week, we have time to look at the data, personalize plans for students in the coming cycle, and make small improvements or model revisions to better meet the needs of our families. With 7 weeks dedicated to growth each year, every cycle at Kairos is better than the last. The goal of this section is to cover the factual information, the basics, and to present it in a format that allows you to personalize your own learning. But like at Kairos, we recognize that this isn't the full picture. If you have any additional questions, or you'd like to see what the school looks like from the inside, you can join me for a virtual tour by clicking the link below. I can't wait to get to know your family a little better. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you soon.